A very warm welcome to an island the Portuguese named Formosa, meaning beautiful, when they first caught sight of it in the 16th century. Located in East Asia and surrounded by 3 seas, Taiwan is one of those destinations that few people ever think to put on their travel list. Yet once discovered, it is impossible to forget. Did you know that Taiwan has the highest concentration of tall mountains of any island on the planet? It has 268 peaks, rising more than 3,000 meters above sea level, all packed into an area only slightly larger than Belgium. To put that into perspective, Hawaii has just 3. Towering above them all is Mount Yushan, also known as Jade Mountain, which reaches 3,952 meters. It is higher than Mount Fuji and is the tallest point in the whole of East Asia. And when it comes to surprises, the country does not stop there. Have you ever tried bubble tea? That iced tea filled with chewy tapioca pearls, now sold in shops in practically every major city around the world. It was invented right here in Taichung during the 1980s. Are you the sort of person who loves street food? Then come with an appetite. Taiwan's true spirit emerges in its night markets. Entire neighborhoods that come alive only after sunset, filled with smoke, food stalls, and glowing neon lights. Here is another remarkable fact. The whole island lies at the meeting point of 2 tectonic plates. This explains its mountains and earthquakes, as well as the hot springs that bubble up across the island, some of them even emerging beneath the sea. And while we are talking about impressive heights, it is worth mentioning Taipei 101, which was the tallest building in the world until 2007. For a territory covering just over 36,000 square kilometers, the figures are striking. Taiwan is home to around 23.5 million people, has one of the highest levels of human development in Asia, and possesses a technology industry that manufactures a large proportion of the computer chips that keep the modern world running. Here, high-speed trains race across the plains, while, only a few kilometers away, centuries-old temples continue to burn incense, just as they did 300 years ago. And this is only the beginning. Over the next few minutes, we will explore Taipei, Jiufen, Taroko Gorge, Sun Moon Lake, Tainan, Kaohsiung, Taichung, the Qingshui Cliffs, and much more. Get ready, because the best is yet to come. Welcome to the Ilha Formosa. We begin our journey in Taipei, the capital, a city nestled within a basin surrounded by lush green mountains, where the ancient and the futuristic share the same pavement. Its defining landmark is impossible to miss. Taipei 101, the skyscraper that held the title of the world's tallest building until 2007. Inspired by the shape of a bamboo stalk, its unmistakable silhouette dominates the skyline. From its observation deck, more than 500 meters above the ground, the entire city unfolds beneath you. And on clear days, you can see as far as the mountains surrounding it. Curiously, one of the building's greatest attractions is hidden inside. A 660-ton steel sphere suspended near the top of the tower. It moves like a giant pendulum, helping to stabilize the building during typhoons and earthquakes. But Taipei is not all about soaring heights. Just a few streets away from the skyscrapers, Longshan Temple has been filled with the smoke of burning incense since the 18th century. Worshippers, offerings and prayers flow through the temple without pause, making it not only one of the city's most photogenic places, but also one of its most vibrant. For those wishing to delve deeper into history, the National Palace Museum houses one of the most important collections of Chinese art in the world, with almost 700,000 objects spanning thousands of years. The collection is so vast that only a small proportion can be displayed at any one time. Visiting the museum twice will almost certainly mean seeing something different on each occasion. When the sun goes down, however, the city takes on an entirely new identity. night markets spread across whole streets, filling them with steaming food stalls, neon lights, and a symphony of aromas. The most famous is Shilin Night Market, a maze of street food where you can sample everything from oyster omelettes to ice-cold bubble tea. It is here, surrounded by the crowds, that the true spirit of Taiwan reveals itself. Those looking to relax need only take the metro to Beitou, Taipei's thermal district. There, amid clouds of steam rising from the ground and a volcanic valley known as Hell Valley, hot water springs naturally from the earth, a reminder that the entire island rests upon constantly shifting tectonic plates. With its centuries-old temples, futuristic skyscrapers, mountains and markets that awaken only after dark, Taipei is the perfect introduction to everything the beautiful island has to offer. Travelling into the mountains of northeastern Taiwan, less than 2 hours from Taipei, we arrive in Jiufen, perhaps the most photogenic village on the entire island. Perched on a steep hillside overlooking the Pacific Ocean, Jiufen began as an isolated village before experiencing a dramatic transformation in the early 20th century, when gold was discovered in the surrounding mountains. For several decades, the village was swept up in a gold rush that turned it into a prosperous and bustling settlement. Once the mines were exhausted, however, Jiufen fell into a deep sleep, and it is precisely this sense of time standing still that has made it so irresistible. The heart of the village is its old street, a narrow maze of stairways, alleyways and tea houses stacked one above another. Cars cannot enter, so the only way to explore is on foot, weaving past food stalls, small craft shops and old-fashioned shop fronts. This is where you can try chewy taro balls, peanut ice cream wrapped in a thin pancake, and tea prepared in the traditional way, one leaf at a time. Yet, Jiufen's true magic appears after sunset. Hundreds of red lanterns illuminate the stairways, their light reflecting against dark wooden facades and creating an almost dreamlike atmosphere. The effect is so distinctive that the village is frequently said to have inspired settings in a famous Japanese animated film, although this connection has never been officially confirmed. Then there is the natural scenery. Mist drifting down from the mountains, the persistent fine rain, and, far below, the Pacific Ocean stretching all the way to the horizon. With its lanterns, mist and stairways climbing the mountainside, Jiufen is the sort of place that seems to exist more vividly in memory than in reality. While Jiufen enchants visitors with its delicate beauty, our next destination impresses through the sheer force of nature. On the island's east coast, in Hualien County, lies Taroko Gorge, Taiwan's most celebrated natural landmark. Over countless kilometers, the Yehliu River has carved its way through the rock, creating a canyon lined with vertical walls that rise hundreds of meters into the air. And here is the detail that makes Taroko truly unique. These cliffs are not made of ordinary stone. They are marble. Over millions of years, tectonic uplift pushed entire layers of limestone upwards, transforming them into marble, while the river gradually sculpted its way through them. The result is a grey gorge, streaked with white veins, so narrow in places that the sky becomes little more than a sliver far above. The road through the park is an engineering marvel in its own right, carved directly into the rock, with hand-dug tunnels opening onto balconies, suspended above the abyss. Among its most famous sites are the Swallow Grotto, where erosion has created hundreds of holes in the cliff walls, the Tunnel of 9 Turns, a winding section that snakes through the canyon, and the Eternal Spring Shrine, a pavilion built above a waterfall cascading directly down the mountainside, one of the most iconic views in the whole of Taiwan. Surrounding the gorge, Taroko National Park protects mountains, rising more than 3,000 meters above sea level, covered in dense forest and crossed by trails leading to waterfalls, hot springs and suspension bridges, hanging high above the void. With its marble cliffs, turquoise rivers and roads carved into solid rock, Taroko is proof that Taiwan is far more than its cities. Continuing into the island's interior, in Nantou County, we reach Taiwan's geographical heart, Sun Moon Lake, the country's largest body of freshwater. Its name comes from the shape of the lake itself. The eastern section is rounded like the sun, while the western side is curved and tapered like a crescent moon. Between them lies a small island, Yehliu Island, regarded as sacred by the Thao people, one of Taiwan's indigenous groups, who have lived in the region for centuries and continue to preserve their traditions there. Surrounded by forest-covered mountains, the lake has one feature that makes it especially cinematic: the mist. In the early hours of the morning, a thick haze rises from the water and envelops everything: boats, temples and mountains, in near total silence. It is the most beautiful time of day and well worth waking early to experience. Around the water, the landscape is rich in history and spirituality. Yehliu Temple, with its stone lions guarding the entrance, offers one of the finest views across the lake. Xi'an Pagoda, built high on a hill, requires a walk to reach it, but rewards visitors with a 360-degree panorama of the entire region. For those who enjoy cycling, this is home to one of the most beautiful cycle routes in the world. The path follows the shoreline, crosses bridges suspended above the water, and passes through sections where it feels as though the bicycle is floating over the lake itself. And be sure to try the local black tea. The surrounding hills produce a variety that has been cultivated for more than a century and is regarded as one of the finest in the whole of Asia. With its mist, temples and mirror-like waters, Sun Moon Lake is the most peaceful retreat on the beautiful island. Travelling southwest, we arrive in Tainan, Taiwan's oldest city and, for many, the cultural soul of the country. This is where it all began. Tainan was the island's first major city and served as its capital for more than 2 centuries. That heritage can be seen everywhere, in its narrow streets, its old houses, and above all, its temples. The city is home to hundreds of them, so many that it is almost impossible to walk for 10 minutes without passing one. The Confucius Temple, founded in the 17th century, is the oldest in Taiwan and remains a place of silence and contemplation, with courtyards shaded by centuries-old trees. In the seaside district of Anping stands one of the most unusual places in the country, the Tree House. This former warehouse was abandoned and then quite literally swallowed by a banyan tree. Its roots now run through the walls, ceilings and windows, making it impossible to tell where the building ends and the tree begins. It is a striking image of nature reclaiming what was once its own. But there is one reason above all why Taiwanese people themselves travel to Tainan: the food. The city is widely regarded as the undisputed culinary capital of Taiwan. Some of the country's most beloved dishes originated here, including danzai noodles, shrimp rolls, fish ball soup, and the famous coffin bread, a thick slice of fried bread filled with a creamy stew. To walk through Tainan is to eat constantly. Every corner has a food stall, and every stall serves a recipe passed down from one generation to the next. With its centuries-old temples, trees, devouring buildings and unrivaled cuisine, Tainan is where Taiwan keeps its roots alive. Continuing south, we arrive in Kaohsiung, Taiwan's second-largest city and the country's principal port. For decades, Kaohsiung was known simply as a heavily industrialized city, driven by the ships constantly entering and leaving its vast harbour. Over the past 2 decades, however, it has undergone a remarkable transformation. Old dockside warehouses have become galleries, disused railway tracks have been turned into parks, and the city has reinvented itself as one of Asia's most exciting creative hubs. The symbol of this transformation is the Pier 2 Art Centre, a complex housed in the abandoned warehouses of the former harbour district, now filled with murals, enormous sculptures, artist studios and cafes. Nearby, the Kaohsiung Music Centre and the revitalised waterfront have transformed the old docks into a lively promenade that comes alive at sunset. There is also one stop no traveller should miss: Formosa Boulevard Metro Station. Yes, a metro station, but one crowned by a colourful glass dome measuring 40 metres in diameter and regarded as one of the most beautiful in the world. The light filtering through the stained glass turns an ordinary train journey into an almost spiritual experience. Speaking of spirituality, Kaohsiung is also home to one of Taiwan's most photographed sites, Lotus Pond, with its twin dragon and tiger pagodas. Tradition says that visitors should enter through the dragon's mouth and leave through the tiger's mouth. Doing it the other way round is said to bring bad luck. And should you have time to spare, take the ferry across to Shilin Island, with its lighthouse, seaside temple, and some of the freshest seafood stalls in the region. With its art, coloured light, pagodas and sea views, Kaohsiung shows how Taiwan can reinvent itself without losing its identity. Back in the north of the island, two neighbouring destinations reveal completely different sides of Taiwan. One sculpted by the sea, the other illuminated by the sky. The first is Yehliu Geopark, a narrow rocky headland stretching out into the ocean which, at first glance, resembles the surface of another planet. Over thousands of years, the wind, rain and waves have carved the sandstone into astonishing shapes. Stone mushrooms, giant footprints, honeycombs, candles and natural cooking pots. The undisputed star of the park is the Queen's Head, a rock formation whose profile bears an uncanny resemblance to a woman wearing an elaborate bun. It has become the park's unofficial symbol. There is, however, a melancholy detail. The same erosion that created it is also slowly destroying its neck, which grows thinner every year. One day, inevitably, it will collapse. Our second destination lies further into the mountains. Shifen, a small village divided by an operational railway line. The houses stand right beside the tracks, literally only a few centimetres away, and between passing trains, the street becomes the setting for one of Taiwan's most beautiful traditions, the release of sky lanterns. Visitors write their wishes on the lantern's 4 paper sides, light the flame, and release it into the air. It rises slowly, turning as it climbs, until it becomes a tiny point of orange light among the mountains. When dozens are released at once, the entire sky begins to glow. Nearby, the wide and powerful Shifen waterfall completes the experience. With rocks sculpted by the sea and lights floating towards the stars, these two destinations capture the symbolic power of the Taiwanese landscape. In the central western part of the island lies Taichung, Taiwan's third largest city and, for many, its most pleasant place to live. Anyone who has ever enjoyed a bubble tea owes this city a visit. It was here, during the 1980s, that someone had the seemingly simple idea of adding tapioca pearls to iced milk tea. The result spread across the globe and has since grown into a multi-billion-dollar industry. The original tea houses are still open, and tasting the drink in the city where it was invented feels almost like a pilgrimage. Taichung is also a city of night markets. Shilin Night Market is the largest in Taiwan, an ocean of stalls, lights and smoke stretching across entire neighbourhoods around the university. It is often here that the country's newest culinary creations first appear before spreading to the rest of the island. Perhaps the city's most unusual attraction, however, is Rainbow Village. This former cluster of modest houses was due to be demolished, but was saved in an unlikely way. An elderly resident began painting the walls, fences and pavements with colourful figures, animals and smiling faces. His work attracted so much attention that the demolition was cancelled. Today, this small collection of brightly painted houses is one of Taichung's most visited attractions. To end the day, head to the Gaomei wetlands on the coast. At low tide, the thin layer of water left across the sand transforms the entire plain into a giant mirror. The sunset, reflected between rows of wind turbines, creates one of the island's most striking views. With its tea, colours and mirror-like waters, Taichung is where Taiwan reveals its most creative side. Back on the east coast, between Hualien and the north of the island, lies one of the most spectacular landscapes in the whole of Asia, the Qingshui Cliffs. Imagine a wall of rock rising directly from the ocean, not a slope or a hill, but an almost vertical cliff soaring more than 800 meters above sea level. Now, imagine that wall stretching for approximately 21 kilometers along the coastline, unbroken and without a single beach to interrupt it. That is Qingshui. Once again, the explanation lies beneath your feet. This is where Taiwan's central mountain range plunges directly into the Pacific. The collision of tectonic plates pushes the mountains upwards while the sea erodes them from below, creating this dramatic divide, one of the tallest coastal cliff formations in the world. It is the contrast of colours that truly steals the show. Dark rock, covered in vivid green vegetation clinging wherever it can, meets water that changes colour with the depth, turquoise near the shore and cobalt blue further out. On sunny days, it looks like a painting. In the mist, it feels like a dream. The road running along this stretch of coastline is one of the most spectacular in the world. Carved directly into the cliffs, it alternates between tunnels and sweeping bends, exposed to the sheer drop below. Several viewpoints can be found along the way, the most famous of which offers the perfect angle from which to appreciate the immense scale of the landscape. For those wishing to see it from a completely different perspective, it is possible to kayak along the base of the cliffs at sunrise, an experience that makes every visitor feel no larger than a grain of sand. With its towering rock faces and the endless blue of the Pacific, Qingshui reveals Taiwan at its wildest. We end our journey in a place that is the complete opposite of everything we have seen so far. There are no skyscrapers, no crowds, and no neon lights. Chishang, in the East Rift Valley, is Taiwan at its most peaceful. Nestled between two mountain ranges, this small agricultural town is surrounded by rice fields stretching as far as the eye can see. What makes the landscape especially remarkable is a decision made by the local community itself. There are no electricity poles or overhead wires crossing the fields. The result is an entirely unobstructed view, nothing but the green of the rice plants, the brown earth and the mountains in the distance. At the heart of the area is a rural road crossing the fields known as Brown Boulevard. It is a long straight path lined with rice paddies, with a single solitary tree standing along the route that has become a symbol of the region. Hiring a bicycle and riding along it at sunrise, while the mist still hangs low over the fields, is one of the most serene experiences Taiwan has to offer. The landscape changes completely with the seasons. In spring, the fields glow with vibrant green. In summer, the rice grows tall and ripples in the wind like waves across the sea. In autumn, everything turns a luminous gold just before the harvest, the time of year when the region holds an open-air music festival with concerts staged in the middle of the rice fields themselves. And be sure to try the local rice. Chishang rice is considered the finest in Taiwan, while the boxed meals prepared at the local railway station have become an institution throughout the country. With its rice fields, mountains, and rare sense of silence, Chishang is the perfect place to end the journey. A reminder that beneath the computer chips and skyscrapers, Taiwan remains an island deeply connected to the land. And so we come to the end of our journey through Taiwan, an island that may appear small on the map, but is immense in its contrasts. Here, within just a few hours on the road, you can leave a technological metropolis behind and arrive in a valley where time seems to stand still. You can climb from a tropical beach to a mountain rising almost 4,000 meters above sea level. You can eat at a roadside stall and pray in a temple that is 300 years old. This is a country that refuses to be defined by just one thing. Perhaps that is why people who visit Taiwan almost always return home asking the same question: why did I not come here sooner? The Portuguese could not have chosen a more fitting name when they called it Formosa. 5 centuries later, the beautiful island remains one of Asia's best-kept secrets, an irresistible invitation for anyone wishing to discover the continent beyond the obvious. And if you have enjoyed traveling with us, leave us a like. It really helps the channel to keep bringing you more content like this. Take care, and we will see you in the next video.